Okay, so this is okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. We had a bit of a technical challenge there, which we have now resolved. So Tracy, you are the host now. You can just make me co-host. Can you do that? Okay.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly, Mr. Aje. It's good to see you and good to have you here.
All right. Thank you very much. Good to see you too.
Thank you very much indeed.
Nice to see you. Yeah.
And
yes, nice to see you. Welcome.
Okay, we had a bit of a technical glitch, which we have managed to sort now, and we're good in time as well for others who will be joining so that they won't have any difficulty. So let me just quickly mention here. So I have with me, you'll be interacting with Tracy, of course. Tracy is the event coordinator, has been, interacting with you. Tracy is a PhD researcher, an associate lecturer at the Leicester Castle Business School at Montfort University. She's also, of course, one of early career PGRs at our African Entrepreneurship Cluster at the Montfort University, as well as the African Scholars Forum. I also have here with me Dr. Amos Fatokun, who is a senior lecturer in pharmacology at Liverpool John Moore University. Dr. Fatokun is one of our mentors in the African Scholars Forum, has done a lot of work with the British Council and with various international organizations, and is quite big on mentorship. And so thank you, Dr. Fatokun, for being here. I also have here with me my colleague from the African Entrepreneurship Cluster of Center for Enterprise and Innovation, and the Deputy Director of the Center for Enterprise and Innovation, that is Dr. Kasa Woodison-Better. It's good to see you, Kasa. Welcome on board. And I should just mention, again, we'll probably say it again, remind me, Tracy, that Kasa will be leading another exciting event in just about 2 weeks' time, thereabouts. I think it's 14th of June. We'll be telling you on that, but I hope you all keep that in mind and you make time to attend. So it's good to have you here, Kasa. So, we have people now entering. There is also here with us Dr. Abiodun Egbetokun. Dr. Abiodun Egbetokun is the Assistant Director of the National Center for Technology Management in Nigeria, an agency of the Nigerian federal government. Is going to be speaking alongside our keynote speaker today to bring that scholarly and policy perspective. He has the unique positioning, Dr. Egbetokun, of somebody who sits at the confluence of research and policy, and he will be bringing us, perspective from a scholarly and policy perspective today. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are live already on Facebook. So if you cannot join us on the Zoom, you can connect with us on Facebook Live and follow the conversation. You can see also that I have here joining us again, one of my colleagues at the Montfort University, our head of department for the Department of Management and Entrepreneurship, Dr. Demola Obembe is here. Welcome, Dr. Obembe. It's good to have you here. I can see also many of you here who are members of the African Scholars Forum or members of the Center for Enterprise and Innovation African Entrepreneurship Cluster. Okay, so without taking too much time, let me just introduce to you our keynote speaker for today. And I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot from him in a short while. Mr. Shola Aje is the founder and chief product architect of of Ideas Infusion Limited. His background is in engineering, electrical and electronics engineering. And he is an entrepreneur, who has had, more than 20 years of managerial experience. He spent quite a lot of time in the oil and gas sector, where he has then moved on to more exciting stuffs, I should say, as an inventor, with several patents already in his portfolio. And today, he's going to be speaking to us, on this issue, on this main topic of, addressing the challenge of youth and unemployment in Africa through innovative entrepreneurship. Now, all of us know, and many of you I can see from different parts of African countries, recognize that, youth unemployment is perhaps arguably is the most significant or most pressing challenge facing the African continent today. When you look left, right, and center, from east to west, and south, and back to the north, we see a vast army of unemployed youth who have been pushed to the fringes, to the margins of society, excluded from opportunities, and in anger and hungry and frustrated, become quite a big problem. What should be a big opportunity for the continent, which has one of the youngest demographics, perhaps the youngest demographics outright in the world, has been sitting for many years now on a ticking time bomb. And wherever you look, you see stories of conflict, of international conflict at times, terrorist activities at times. But in the midst of that, also you find a lot of young people trying against all the odds to make something happen. And so it's the two sides of the coin, really. So there's the tale of doom and gloom, and there is the promise, of turning the page. And the pathway to this is through this creation of opportunity to create value rather than to destroy things, through ambitious, innovative entrepreneurship. And that is the subject of our conversation today. It's going to be very interactive. Our two speakers are going to speak, of course, and then we will be interacting with them. And you, the audience, we have a lot of opportunities to interrogate, to ask questions, because all of us need to be involved in this project, in this process, in this ambitious opportunity for the future. Okay, I will now invite our first and our keynote speaker, Mr. Olorun Shola Aje. Please, can you make him a co-host, Tracy? So that he can give his presentation. After he has done that, I will be asking him a few questions. And then we are going to turn over to Dr. Egbetokun for his talk. I will also ask Dr. Egbetokun a few questions, and then we're going to just come back down to the audience, to speak to these issues. And hopefully, in the course of our conversation, we'll be able to, synthesize and co-create new ideas on the way forward for a continent, the continent of opportunity, as I used to call it, the African continent. Over to you, Mr. Shola Aje.
Thank you very much, Prof. I appreciate this opportunity to be able to share the platform with other scholars. Like you said, I mean, the problem of unemployment, that's the greatest problem, the greatest challenge Africa is facing today. And when you look at a whole lot of the countries, especially the countries in sub-Saharan Africa, and even in North Africa, there are lots and lots of insecurity issues, armed banditry, kidnapping, terrorism, all sorts. And when you look at the root cause of this, you can easily, you can trace it to unemployment. And when you now look at the demography of the people engaging in this, you find that these are young people because they have the energy. Some of them are quite educated, but they are frustrated because they can't get jobs. So crime seems to be an option that is much easier. And of course, when you look at it today, that with social media everywhere, you have access to see what's happening in other countries. So even the frustration becomes more. Amidst all this, I believe that we can't all give up and wait for outsiders to come and fix our problem in Africa. I believe the solution to unemployment in Africa resides in Africa, and it's only Africans that can solve this problem. As a matter of fact, personally, I believe that the problem insecurity in Africa is actually a blessing in disguise. When I say this, people marvel and say, no, that's bad news. I say, well, it's bad news, but there's a lot of good coming out of it. And how do I mean? I mean, if not for the insecurity, a lot of the foreign investors that are seeing the opportunities, they've seen the opportunities that Africans are not seeing, they'll all be here. And they're going to take over all the segments within a decade. But with so much insecurity around, quite a number of them that would have been in Africa, they're still beating their time, waiting for when things will be fixed. So I think this is the time for Africans to put on the sense of creativity and innovation and leverage on existing technologies to combat this issue of unemployment. And for me, entrepreneurship, that's for me, that's what I would call the gateway to the solution for unemployment, because we have so many segments that, we have opportunities. Talk about housing, talk about manufacturing, talk about even the financial sector, agriculture. There's just so much. There's just so much. I would say, there's just so much money on the table, but it requires a lot of hard work, dedication, and a spirit that is willing to come up with solutions and not excuses. Personally, I've told myself that the rest of my life, I will dedicate it towards combating or tackling the problem of youth unemployment in Africa. So my company, which is Ideas Infusion Limited, we came up with an entrepreneurial solution, which is, we call it Innovative and Sustainable Entrepreneurship for Youths in Africa. So the acronym is ISHEYA. Incidentally, ISHEYA in the Yoruba language of Nigeria means it's time to work. So for me, I believe it's time for everyone in Africa to get their thinking caps to work. It's time for the youth to work. And one of the products we are launching, or we have just launched under the ISHEYA brand, is the innovative and sustainable entrepreneurship, the Ishaya multi-business cat. So I will be giving a presentation about this cat. I am the inventor of the cat. I think I got a patent for the invention that was
Mr. Aje, yeah, please.
Yes, okay. Yeah. So can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So unfortunately, Corona came in 2020 and could not do much. So we couldn't, the location where we had secured to start the production, we could not use it. So I was forced to convert my house, which is a 6-bedroom duplex, into a factory. And from the same house, we built about 200 units, within about 2 months. So right now, we just moved into a standard factory, and production will start in another 1 week from now on. So I would like to make this presentation, it's just a short presentation. There's an embedded video as well. So when the video comes on, you're just gonna watch it. It comes with the audio. So I will proceed to share my screen in some few seconds now. A minute, let me share my screen. Okay, screen share. Okay, I think I got it. All right. Can you see the screen, everyone? Hello?
Yes, we can see.
Okay.
Very well. Okay, yeah, we can see it. Yeah. Maybe you can.
Yeah. Just 1 second. It's trying to go to slideshow. Okay. All right. Yeah. We got it.
Brilliant.
Okay. You can see the screen?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
All right. So, like I said, we've created an entrepreneurial solution, which we call the Innovative and Sustainable Entrepreneurship for Youth Africa. The acronym is ISHEA. So what we're trying to do is, we'll be coming up with so many different innovations under this brand. And the primary objective of the products that we'll be launching under this brand is to tackle, the products will be, they'll be focused on tackling youth unemployment in Africa. So that's the cat here. So it's a mobile cat that allows you to run 5 sustainable businesses. So basically, what I started with, we already know the prevalent socio-economic problems we're facing in Africa, insecurity, unemployment, of which the youth population, they are the highest number of the unemployed people. And, with insecurity and unemployment, they lead to poverty. The COVID-19 pandemic has further contributed to a widespread, there's been lots of businesses that have shut down. So this is our solution. It's an entrepreneurship innovation, which is designed, developed to create sustainable employment and which will guarantee predictable income. So it's a very simple design. It allows end users to operate 5 sustainable micro businesses simultaneously. The first one is mobile phone charging. The second one is multi-fruit juice processing and retailing. The third one is agent banking services. The fourth is electricity rental service and the barbing salon service. So from what you can see, it's solar powered, and the solar system there has batteries to ensure that when you operate at night, you still have energy to perform, to run those businesses. So this is the video, and it's just about 2 minutes. So we're just gonna go through the video. for the next 2 minutes. I hope everyone can see the video.
The sound is not great. I don't know whether this is just me. Is it just me or the sound is not so great? Tracy?
The sound from I think on the computer's end isn't being picked up, so it's quite low.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get the video?
Yes, the video played okay. It was the sound that there wasn't any, or rather it was quite low on my end.
Great. Can you pause it,
Yeah.
Mr. Aje? Let me try something here, and let's see whether that will work. If you can pause your presentation for a moment, and
Okay.
Let me try something. Maybe you can also stop sharing, and let me just see. Let me try this, and we see because.
Okay. I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, I think it is an exciting video clip. And I think it would be great if people can actually hear the sound as well. So I found a video on YouTube, the same video on YouTube. So let's see whether that will work in terms of the sound. So I will try and do that now and share that and see.
Okay.
Yes. Please, Tracy, if you can confirm.
So your screen is shared. But likewise, the sound so far isn't great either. Like there's none, in fact, on this from this video.
Is the sound not improved?
No, there's no sound at all.
I see. Okay. Right. Okay. I think we will try and see whether we can do something else further down the line. I will transfer back to Mr. Aje now. So this is
you need to share your sound. You need to share the sound as you share the screen. On that same window at the bottom on the left-hand side, you should also have an opportunity to share your sound. And if you do share your sound, then we'll be able to hear it. Otherwise, we're going to hear the background sound that comes from your computer.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Rio. Yeah, that is great stuff. Yes,
you're welcome, sir.
Okay, let me try again. Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, so I will start from the beginning. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, over to you. Over back to you, Mr. You can share.
Okay, so that's basically the video, and I just run through the rest of the presentation. Well, it just talked about the process, which we've seen in the video, like we just saw in the video. Oh, just 1 second. Let me share my screen. Sorry, forgot to share the screen. Okay. Okay, just 1 second. It's coming. Can you see my screen now?
It's loading, but I'm sure it will be available soon.
Okay. The link here is not very fast.
To double click or something?
Yeah, try double clicking to enter full screen mode. And
I've already clicked that. Slow. Okay. Okay, let's see. It's just
we can see it now.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
You can see it now.
Yeah, it's
okay. Let me just let me put it on a slideshow mode. I think that's what it doesn't want to respond. Okay, maybe I'll just 1 second. Oh, I think the link. Okay, I got it now.
okay. All right.
It's on now. Oh, sorry. So let me go to the next slide. Oh my God. Come back again.
So we're able to see, yeah, the video slide that you had left it on.
Yeah. There's just 3 more sheets behind it. It's already open, but I don't know what's wrong with the app. Okay, let me see. Okay. It's okay. Yeah. Can you see it now?
No, it's gone. It's a black screen. From my end, I can try and share it for you.
Just share it. Yes. Let me stop sharing. I think my link here is very bad. That's why. So let me stop the share. If we can just share. So it's the next slide after the video.
Okay.
All right. So okay, I've stopped sharing.
Okay. I take it. Are you all able to see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
So it's the next slide number 5.
Let me just. There we go.
Oh, all right. So, yes, okay, yes. So basically, I mean, just like I showed in the video, the multi-business solution process, it's a very simple process. It's an innovative multi-business solution process. You have, for the very first time, you have one product that has that offers 5 services. And when you look at it, in many African countries, especially the sub-Saharan countries, the solution or the services that this the eShare multi-business card offers, they are actually solutions to everyday problems faced by people. For example, in Nigeria, I mean, electricity generation, it's not that fantastic. It's quite poor. So you have people looking for places to charge their phones, and people wanting illumination for their businesses. The same thing, I mean, for agent banking services. Many times you find that the ATM machines of the banks, they're not working, or there's no money in them. So right now in Nigeria, the central bank, they have given out licenses for agent banking services, which means you just need to have a place where you can maybe keep some small amount of money, and you have a POS machine that allows you to do the agency banking services. And the other one as well is the barbing salon. So when you look at it, it's actually saving you a lot of money, because when you want to do all this business separately, you'll probably have to get different locations for them and buy a generator. Then when there's fuel scarcity, you'll be looking for how to fuel the generator, or sometimes the generator breaks down and you can't do anything. But with the renewable energy source, you don't have any issues with power, and it allows you to run at least 4 of these businesses simultaneously. I should note that the juice processing and retailing cannot be done at the same time with the barbing salon. So what we recommend for the people is, hey, you first make your juice, maybe when you come in the morning for the first few hours. Then afterwards, keep it in the ice box cooler. Then you can now, after that, you can start the barbing salon service. You can go to the next slide. All right. So this is the projected monthly net profit. This is Nigeria, and when you look at it, I mean, these are very conservative estimates. So I think at the bottom line, at the lower end, you have about 90-something thousand. I can't see very well on my screen, but the other one is about 228,000 there. So I mean, for this for this type of profits, you can still live a decent life in Nigeria. You can, and it's, I mean, the fact that you're running 5 businesses simultaneously, it means that, I mean, you will not only break even, you will be making very good and sustainable profits almost every day. You can go to the next slide. Slide number 7, please. All right. Well, so this one just tells you, oh, number 7. Okay. The next slide is just how the Ishaya multi-business card complements. Okay, no. Number 7. It's got.
Sorry, is that the SDGs one? Because that's the one.
Yes. That's the SDG one. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
It's what's on screen. I'm hoping everyone else is able to see that, because that's what's displayed.
Okay,
on
I can see it.
Yeah.
Can everyone see it? All right. So this slide just tells us, you know, how the Ishaya multi-business card complements the objective of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I mean, all over the world, I think there's a target of, I think, year 2025 for the countries to meet some of these goals, and I mean, every country has its own target. So, and this is an example of, we made a presentation to the federal government as well, and they actually purchased about 100 units from us for a pilot phase to use this card for the SDG goal project. We can go to the next slide. That's slide number 8.
It's on, so potential economic impact.
Okay, yes. So this is for Nigeria as well. So this is just like a projection to say, okay, fine. If we have about 1,000 units per state, Nigeria, we have about 36 states and 774 local government areas. So you're talking about having 36,000 new businesses and more than 100,000, about 100,000 new jobs. So what do you have? Especially in Nigeria, for example, when you look at the orange fruit value chain, as well as the ones for other juices, like other fruits like pineapple and watermelon, you'll discover that at the retail end, in majority of the places in Nigeria, you will discover that oranges, pineapple, and watermelon, they are still being sold raw. They are not processed. There's no processing. If you want to, for example, you want pineapple juice, watermelon juice, or orange juice, you either have to get it from a restaurant, get it from a supermarket, you pay a premium for that, or you make it yourself in the house. With the Ishaya multi-business card, you have a value chain transformation in the sense that at the retail end of the value chain of these fruits, there is now some processing happening. Like if you're familiar with Nigeria and some other African countries, you see a lot of people selling oranges almost every day in every part of the country. But the oranges are hand peeled and you consume it by squeezing it in your house, or you squeeze it with your hands. But having something like the Ishaya multi-business card, you can produce the juice just by the side of the road, and people can easily buy. And then, because your cost layout is reduced, you're not paying for a building, you're not paying rent, you don't need an electrical orange juicer, because the juicer here is hand-powered. So you can afford to sell the juice much lower than what people will buy in the supermarkets and the restaurants. So when you look at that, the economic impact, I mean, you're talking about 1.576 trillion naira to the GDP, assuming you have about 36,000 of these cards being deployed across Nigeria. So this is just to show, I mean, the economic impact as well. The next slide. So this is the final slide, and it just talks about the value proposition. We have sustainable employment, value chain transformation, which I just talked about. It's environmentally friendly because, for example, in Nigeria, where electrical power is poor, there's a lot of pollution going on because the guy who's running the barbing salon business is going to run a generator. The guy who is doing the POS will need a generator to charge the POS machine. The guy who is running the phone charging business, he needs to get another generator as well. Then the person making the juice too, he needs to get a generator. So, I mean, in many cities of Nigeria, you have generators screaming for help. I mean, they've been working all day long. So with a product like this, you're not only tackling the problem of unemployment, you are actually saving the environment as well by reducing pollution. Then I mentioned as well that it complements the UN SDG. Then, of course, renewable power generation. So from that, we can almost get up to 1 kilowatt hour of electrical power daily. That's how much of electrical power we can get from the units. I've talked about the multiple businesses, and then I showed, you know, the charts for the projected profits. Then one of the things we've done is when we deliver the Ishaya multi-business card to you, it comes already assembled. That's why I call it, I mean, it comes delivered in a turnkey configuration. All you have to do, put the power switch on, then you start your business. As a matter of fact, if you purchase the Ishaya multi-business card, within few minutes of taking delivery, at least you can start the phone charging business, electricity rental immediately. And even the barbing salon, because the barbing salon, we already put in the barbing salon kit there. We have a professional clipper kit enclosed. We also have charging cables that allows you to charge 24 phones simultaneously. And we've included those 4 lithium-ion battery-operated lamps for electricity rental. So for me, this product, even though this is the first version, right now, we're even working on an upgraded version that will have 2 additional services. This will be coming out maybe in the next 3 months. We're still testing the prototypes. And as well, I mean, I'm working on other products, you know, that will run on renewable energy, but maybe doing different things as well. So before the end of the year, we're hoping to roll out about 5 additional products that will be targeted at, you know, tackling the problems of youth unemployment. So I'll be ending my talk for now. Thank you very much, Professor Shola.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed for sharing this brilliant idea and the project you're on. I think is a journey. I would say the journey that you're on, very exciting journey. I'm sure that there are a lot of participants who have, you know, interesting comments and questions, but we're going to hold it for a bit while Dr. Egbetokun comes on. But before that, I just want to ask 1 or 2 questions, just to give a bit more to the audience, and as they begin to prepare their own comments and questions for later on. So you started your career in oil and gas, right? Where I presume you made lots of money. So the question I want to ask you is why Ishaya? I don't imagine that your motivation was to make more money. Because if you are going to make money, I think, you know, naturally the assumption would be, you know, it's in oil and gas. And it's also quite an interesting trajectory from oil and gas to all these things about youth empowerment, about, renewable energy as well. Can you just tell us a bit more about your journey and your motivation?
All right, for me, in everything I do, one of the reasons I left the oil and gas is because it was no more challenging. I joined at a very early age. I graduated when I was 20 years old with a degree in electrical engineering, did my youth service immediately with Shola Aje Oilfield Services. And within 5 years of working in Shola Aje, I became a manager in different countries. So I got tired because, it was routine work we were doing, attending meetings, making revenue forecasts. And, when I look at myself, I said, look, I think God has blessed me with a sense of creativity, because as a young guy, I knew all the stuff I was doing when I was a kid. And I told myself, I said, look, I can't stay here for long, because with the oil and gas, there is no innovation. It's still the same thing. We're going to go down there with our tools and get the oil out. So there's basically no innovation, at least in my own segment, which was formation evaluation. So I just got tired and I said, okay, I think I need to step out of this and do something very, very different. Interestingly, when I left the oil and gas, that was about almost, I think that was in 2005, I went to do something completely different from oil and gas, because then that was when we had the pocket PC, and I saw an opportunity there, because then there were no apps and it was very difficult for people to use those pocket PCs. So what I did, I set up a company, and we were the only company probably in the whole world selling pocket PCs that were loaded with software. And we were making very, very huge margins. In fact, I made a lot of money from that business than all people. Hello?
Thank you very much. I lost you for a moment there, but thank you. I'm sure people were still following. Right. So, yeah.
Yes. So basically, what drives me is is adding value. Like I tell people, I always want my staff and even people close to me. I said, don't use that word, I'm a hustler or I'm hustling. I said, call yourself or see yourself as a value creator. I'm not a hustler, I'm creating value. So, that's what drives me. So for example, with Ishaya now, it's not about money. For me, our primary objective is seeing that we contribute our quota towards reducing unemployment in Africa.
Thank you very much indeed. That is really an exciting journey and story. Okay, because I know because of our time, and we want to give the audience time as well. Just one more very quick question. What is the future of Ishaya? What do you see as the future? In terms of scaling it up, in terms of maybe you said there's already an upgrade, what can, users, do with this in the future? What can they, like if you start with a farmland of, let's say 5 hectares, you are maybe cultivating produce as a business person, you want to look ahead about, this is the trajectory of development. So what would you say is the future of Ishaya, both in terms of upscaling as well as upgrading? Okay. So two ways now. The upscaling part in terms of expansion outside Nigeria, within Nigeria, outside Nigeria, but also in terms of upgrading from a user's perspective, that what additional features can be added going forward in the future.
All right. So in terms of scaling up, hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. In terms of scaling up, we just moved to a new production facility. And from this production facility right now, we will be able to do about 500 units every month. And we're even thinking of increasing that in another 6 months. I mean, we've had a lot of interest from different countries. Right now, we are talking with, we're in discussion with about 4 different countries, and even from the Caribbean as well. They want to order the share and take it to their own country. So for us, our primary focus in terms of scaling up will be, increasing our production capacity and maybe including some automation to make the production much more efficient. So that's what we're looking at. In terms of upgrade, like I said, we're coming up with a different model. That model, it will add 2 additional businesses. In fact, the patent actually covers the upgrade as well. And that one, the new model that will come, it will simply have a digital screen. It will have a digital screen. Basically, what we want to do is we want to incorporate digital advertising on the cart. So, I mean, when you look around all over Africa, it's very expensive to afford, for people to afford digital adverts, because it's only the big players that can do that. So digital advertisement, ridiculously low rates to the masses, because when you look at it, there are lots and lots of businesses, small businesses. I mean, I would say when you look at the ecosystem of entrepreneurship in Africa, the small businesses, they're about like maybe 90% or 95%. The remaining 5% are the medium scale to the large scale businesses. So most of these micro businesses, they cannot afford any form of advertisement. And we want to change that with the next model of the share that will come.
Thank you so very much indeed. I mean, it's great to see the forward-thinking approach that you are taking to this, that, while the initial model, or maybe the first model is being rolled out, you're already thinking about, the next model. That is really exciting and fascinating. I don't want to run any extensive commentaries because there are a lot of interested, participants here, some of them quite highly competent people who have been doing great things themselves. I'm sure they will be offering, more comments later on. Well, thank you so very much, and please, of course, stand by for the questions and answers and comment section from the audience later. Right now, we will welcome Dr. Thank you very much once again, indeed. If you can help me give Mr. Aje a virtual response there on Zoom, that would be great. Yeah, thanks, Tracy. Right, so thank you, Mr. Aje. We'll come back to you again in a short while.
Thank you.
I also have with me here, before I forget, my co-host for today, who is Dr. Amos Fatokun, Senior Lecturer in Pharmacology, for those of you who made the introduction earlier on, Liverpool John Moore University, and one of our mentors in the African Scholars Forum. So in case, so he'll be also making a comment later on. Right, so over to you now, Dr. Abiodun Egbetokun. Dr. Abiodun Egbetokun, like I mentioned earlier on, is Assistant Director at the National Center for Technology Management in Nigeria, a federal agency of the Nigerian government. And he sits, quite very interestingly at the confluence of academic research, academic scholarship, and policy making. And we've asked him to respond to this, of course, to the theme of discussion and the presentation by Mr. Shola Aje, bringing these 2 perspectives together. I'm sure I've seen a few former government officials in the Zoom call. We might be asking them for 1 or 2 of them for some thought later on. But right now, yes, we have the privilege to welcome Dr. Egbetokun. Over to you now, Dr. Egbetokun, for your presentation.
Yes, thank you very much, Prof. And hello, everyone. First, I have to thank Mr. Shola Aje for that wonderful and I must say passionate presentation. That's a good one. And I think this continent needs many more people like you, particularly young people like you. So what I'm going to be doing is bringing some perspectives from research into the discussion of unemployment and what can be done to mitigate the problem. I'm not going to stand for too long between the audience and the interaction that promises to be interesting. So I'm going to go straight to the point, make it as brief as I can. But I must warn you, this is going to be a data-rich presentation that I want to make, and it's deliberate because this is a practical discussion that we want to have. So I won't bore you with a lot of scientific details here and there. I mean, I've done quite some studies in entrepreneurship. That's not what I'm talking about. Basically, I want to just run through a particular thought flow in terms of why do we still have high unemployment on the continent if, you know, given the demographic structure of the continent and the promise. I would pinpoint two key issues that I think explain all of that, and then raise some issues. Maybe at the end, I would raise more questions than answers. I wouldn't know. So let's start here. On the continent, I mean, one point that I believe everyone is familiar with by now is that Africa comprises mostly young people. As a matter of fact, from between Nigeria and some Ethiopia, Kenya, some of the largest countries in Africa, the population distribution is such that an overwhelming majority of the people who live in those countries, particularly these three countries, are below the age of 50. It's an overwhelming majority. So one would expect that these countries should do well economically because a large share of their population are active and should be productive. And if you look at the statistics on this slide, this data is from the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which, you know, does a random sample of people in each country, people between the ages of 15 and 64. So the productive age generation X, Y, and Z, basically, and asks them about, in this particular slide, the question that was asked to produce this data was, do you intend to start a business in the next 3 to 5 years? So this is the share of people who answered yes across countries in this continent and subcontinent, averaged out. So sub-Saharan Africa, if I may isolate that for a minute, has 53% of the people intending to become an entrepreneur over the next 3 to 5 years. This data was gathered in 2012 at different points across the countries. I couldn't find more recent data in that respect. Later, I'm going to be showing you more recent data from Nigeria. And you see that across the entire world, this is by far the largest. The closest is Latin America and Caribbean, which has 1 in 3 persons wanting to be an entrepreneur. So the summary is that the intentions to become entrepreneur, the interest in entrepreneurship on the continent of Africa among the people who should be doing it, in fact, is extremely high. I mean, well, maybe not extremely, but really quite high. And it's not just about the intentions, it's also about the activity. Again, if I may isolate sub-Saharan Africa here, if you look across the indicators at the top of the table, nascent entrepreneurship rate, which is the number of people who are, you know, currently doing business. New business ownership rate, that refers to the share of the population or the share of the sample that started a business during the last 1 to 3 years. Early stage entrepreneurial activity, people started just during the last year. And established business ownership rate, that's the share of people who own a business that is at least 5 years old. And business exit, that's discontinuation of businesses. And then as a share of all businesses, how many of these were forced into business by their circumstances, necessity driven? This is not the kind of entrepreneurship that we want. What we want is improvement driven opportunity, which is what you have on the rightmost column there. And again, on all of these indicators, sub-Saharan Africa does really, really well. Unfortunately, we also do well in terms of discontinuation of businesses. And this is one of the areas where the problem begins to show up. Okay, people enter business at a very high rate compared to the rest of the world, but they also exit at a very high rate. But by and large, the key takeaway from this slide is that a lot of the entrepreneurship intentions that we saw earlier translate into entrepreneurship activity, at least across the entire population of African countries, among people aged between 15 and 64 years. So that should raise the question of, should there still be high unemployment? Despite the high intentions for entrepreneurship, the high activity in entrepreneurship, we have heavy burden of unemployment in sub-Saharan Africa. Okay, if you look at the pie chart on the left, we see that 35% of young persons in Africa. Now, this data is from the African Development Bank, and it concerns precisely people between the ages of 15 and 35. These are really young people. 35% of them are in vulnerable employment. A vulnerable employment is a job you're doing that has no social security. It is not permanent, it's casual, you could get laid off at any point. In short, it is everything that is the opposite of decent employment, okay? And 1 in 3 of these young people is both unemployed and discouraged at the same time. Only 15% of them, that's just a dismal proportion actually, are in wage employment, what we would refer to as decent employment. Every year, between 10 and 12 million young persons enter the workforce on the continent of Africa, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. And there's only 3.1 million jobs. So basically, on average, for every vacancy there are at least 3 to 4 persons struggling to occupy that position. And within the next 4 years, there will be at least 263 million more people looking for a job. In fact, they will have no contribution, no economic stake within the economic system across the continent of Africa. This is a very bad situation. Very bad situation, and one wouldn't expect that given some of the figures we have seen before, and given the extensive activity of the entrepreneurs that are on the continent at this time, especially having been enabled by the internet and new technologies. So question is, why is this the case? Okay, we see opportunities, we see potentials, we see skills, but yet jobs are not being created. There are 2 reasons based on my own research and my own reading of the research of others. There are 2 fundamental reasons that explain this. The first one is that the potentials of businesses that are being created on the African continent are low. I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. And coupled with that, there's a huge funnel effect. Again, I'm going to explain what I mean by that. But if we find a way to deal with these 2 problems, then we will begin to significantly make a dent in the unemployment challenge, the youth unemployment challenge of Africa. Now let's take a look at this to begin to speak about entrepreneurship potential. This is the current employment level of new businesses. Again, data from the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. The number of people that were hired by businesses that are owned by entrepreneurs on the continent. You will see that the majority of them either have not created any job within the last 5 years, or have created between 1 and 5 jobs. So the number of enterprises or the number of entrepreneur-driven businesses that have created 20 jobs or more is extremely low. Now, given the huge burden of unemployment that we have, what is going on, in fact, is that a lot of the businesses are being created for the survival of the entrepreneurs and just a handful of people within their inner circles. This is what the data says, okay? Whether the realities are different or not, one will need to do, several years of case studies and all that, but unfortunately, we don't have all that time. But currently, this is what it is. So we can speak about entrepreneurship and how, innovative entrepreneurship would help and all that. I think the conversation is not balanced if we don't look at the potentials of the jobs, of the businesses that are being created. Now, take a look at this other chart. It is what entrepreneurs think on the continent. So this question was asked to them: what are your job growth expectations over the next 5 years? In other words, how many jobs do you intend, or do you plan, or do you hope to create over the next 5 years? As far back as 2012, again, the most popular group there is 1 to 5. So most entrepreneurs on the continent currently do not even have strong growth expectations. They don't have strong growth outlook. In other words, so long as I can make ends meet and I can satisfy my inner circle of close friends, hire one of 2-3 persons, then I'm fine. This is not the kind of entrepreneurship that will contribute to solving the unemployment problem. Now, I bring you some other statistics. This is data from Crunchbase as recently as 2017. There are 2 charts you're looking at here. The one on the left is, and I deliberately chose tech startups actually, because this is the thing now. This is where we believe that a lot of innovative entrepreneurship is taking place. For instance, literally all of the startups in Africa between the last 5 to 7 years that have gone on to attain unicorn status are in the tech space. They are the tech startups. So they either do something related to ICT or some other, kind of technology there. So it's good to look at this particular sector because we believe that it is the center of it is going to be the hub of innovative entrepreneurship come the next few years. But how does it fare presently? So the chart on the left tells us the prevalence of tech startups in a country. So this chart basically looks at the top performers in the world and then benchmarks a couple of countries from the bottom. And the one on the right looks at the number of exits over $100 million from the venture capital market. So basically, this is about fundraising. The magnitude of funds that a tech startup is able to raise is an indicator of the growth potentials of that business. So those who exit the venture capital market, the equity market at over $100 million, they are designated to have attained unicorn status. And if you're looking for Africa on this chart, you're going to have to look at the bottom, as I just highlighted. So the potential for innovative entrepreneurship is there, but the reality is that looking at the figures as we have it now, the aggregate data, we're not realizing it yet. I mean, realistically, let's ask ourselves, how many potential Shola Ajes are out there? How many of them are in fact doing what Shola Aje is doing at the moment? There are several things that would explain, this particular phenomenon that we're looking at in this slide. And I'm going to return to that shortly, but it has to do with constraints mainly. And then funneling effect. What we mean by funneling effect in research circles, particularly in the economic research circles, is that you see the shape of the funnel is big at the point of entry, but very narrow at the point of exit. So the exit is taken as, when something has, gained some additional value. So you put pupils into the education system at primary level, And then you want graduates at the end of university education, basically. But when you look at the number of pupils who enter into primary school, they are usually very large. In some countries, we have as high as 90%, 101% enrollment rate. But by the time you look at tertiary education completion rate, that's the exit of the funnel. You see like only 10% of pupils who entered 15, 17 years ago are exiting at that point. So what is going on is that some people are, a lot of people have dropped off on the way, on the pathway. That's what we mean by funneling effect. So this chart is data of one of the projects we implemented recently at NASET. And we went around the country, spoke with young undergraduates in the Nigerian university, thousands of them actually. I think about 20,000. At the point we spoke with 50,000. This is data that we gathered over several years, and this is a project that is still ongoing. As of now, our data has hit around 65,000 undergraduates that we have spoken with, and the story is consistent. On average, over 80% of them claim to be interested in entrepreneurship. But when you ask them, are you doing anything presently? And remember, the people we're speaking with are undergraduates, quite all right, but they live in a time where opportunities are bound for them to do businesses while they're in school, okay? And only about 5% of them, 1 in 4, is currently engaged in business. And by the way, one might argue that, okay, yeah, give them a break. Maybe because they're in school, they can't do business yet. We're speaking with young core members as well. And again, the story is consistent that most highly educated young Nigerians are interested in entrepreneurship, but very, very few of them, in fact, practice entrepreneurship. So this is a huge funneling effect. There's a big chunk of potential entrepreneurs there whose potentials we're not harnessing. So you look at those figures there. Now, meanwhile, as has been mentioned by Mr. Aje there, this is an urgent problem. The problem of unemployment is an urgent one because it has a tendency to aggravate poverty on the continent. Plus, very rapidly, we are approaching a turning point where Africa is literally educating its young people for export. Basically, the typical young person in many countries of Africa today does not want to stay back on the continent. In fact, on average, they want to go elsewhere, mostly developed countries, after receiving their basic education on the continent. So basically, we're just educating young persons for export. And why? Because when they finish school, they have nothing to do in most cases. And this is not a good thing at all. Plus, high unemployment is one of the precipitating factors for high insecurity. So if we want to deal with insecurity, actually one of the ways we can deal with that is to deal with high unemployment. So having said all of that, basically, this begins to raise a lot of questions. And one question that I'd like to try to answer, at least before I stop, is so what? We see the problem, we see the potential, the possible causes. So what? Now, let me raise a couple of critical issues, and this is my last slide on which I will dwell a bit before I close. Now, critical issues that if we manage to understand properly and deal with, I think that based on what the research tells us and based on experience in several other countries, we can confidently claim that within the next decade or so, the problem of unemployment on the continent of Africa will become history. Now, you see, young people in most cases do not lack the skills or education for work. And they are not idle by choice. The Nigerian president was in the news in the recent past for claiming purportedly that the average Nigerian youth is idle and lazy. That's far from the truth. There is nothing that can be further from the truth than that. As a matter of fact, the large majority of these young people are willing to hustle. Well, apologies to Mr. Aje, who does not like that word, hustle. But also you see that I put it in quotation marks. Basically, hustle here is, to take their lives in their hands, make economic choices that will help them going into the future. What is the problem, in fact, is the absence of redundancies. You see, innovation thrives in redundancies, and redundancies equal opportunities. If opportunities are there, people will thrive. People will thrive. I have argued for quite some time now that government really does not need to do too much in dealing with the problems of unemployment beyond creating opportunities for people to help themselves. When people are able to help themselves, they in fact will. There is no one who has the chance to help himself or herself and will not do it. The problem is that too many young people are so helpless. And one of the reasons, two reasons why they are helpless are my last bullets there. The first one is that what we study in school, the education curriculum does not really match job market requirements. And even when there is any semblance of match between the education curriculum and what the job market wants, because of the way the curriculum itself is structured, it's difficult for young people to make the connection. So take, for instance, Mr. Aje studied electronic and electrical engineering in university. He has grown to become an entrepreneur over time. I am bold to make the claim that you probably, Mr. Aje, you can correct me if I'm wrong when it's time for discussion, you probably did not take any core course in entrepreneurship during your undergraduate days. If you studied entrepreneurship at all, you did it on your own because you could make that connection on the basis of the experience. Now, the question is how many young people can make this kind of connections, okay? If we do not equip them that way to be able to, take the leap from what they are learning in school to what they need to know to be able to help themselves, then I think solving the unemployment problem is going to be a tough nut to crack. And then the last point here is one that is extremely important. The business environment is particularly harsh, okay? I agree that it could be a blessing in disguise, but you see, the problem is, I don't like the expression heaven helps those who help themselves, or those who help themselves, but in a sense that is true in this context, because if the business environment is so harsh, there is forex instability and so on and so forth. So foreigners cannot come to take advantage of the opportunities. But if those of us locals are also so helpless that we are not able to effectively take advantage of those opportunities, then who helps us? Between having a foreign enterprise that comes into one country and hires, starts a plant and hires 1,000 people versus not being able to have that enterprise, but having young people who cannot take advantage of these opportunities. Sometimes social planners and policymakers have to make a choice. And to be honest with you, more often than not, we don't like the choices they make, but it is as it is. So if policymakers want to begin to solve the problem of unemployment and we want to contribute as a community, I think we need to change the rhetoric and pay a lot more attention to the nature of the business environment. A lot of businesses are heavily infrastructure dependent. So let me use the example of Nigeria. Manufacturing globally is infrastructure dependent. In Nigeria, it has been reported, consistently over time that manufacturing enterprises in Nigeria pay some of the highest transportation costs globally. And why is that the case? Because the infrastructure is just not there. So if you want to move cement from Ajaokuta to Ile-Ife or to Ibadan to sell, you have to rely on the road. And you have to use a truck that can take maximum of 800 bags. When your counterparts in other parts of the world will take that in a railway, what do you call it now? In a railway, what do you call one compartment of the railway? I forgot the word, but you get what I'm saying. That can probably take hundreds, hundreds of what you can take at once. So you see, the number of trips you have to make, some guy will make it once and is going to be able to sell 10 times what you want to sell. So you see, some of these things appear as if they are mundane, but their effects on entrepreneurship potential, on job creation potentials is highly cumulative. And when these things accumulate over time, they kill businesses, they kill the entrepreneurial spirit in young people. There's also the problem of poor electricity. Every business has to fend for itself. So, I mean, this is a message for the business community, the entrepreneurial community, but also a strong message to the policy-making community. The two fundamental things that government needs to do to ensure that we solve the problem of unemployment is, one, ensure that opportunities are there, and two, create an enabling environment. Without an enabling environment where people can freely develop capacity, where people can, secure their capital, have contracts enforced in a fair and equitable manner, have access to infrastructure, then it becomes really, really difficult to solve the unemployment problem. And may I close by saying that the issue of capacity building cannot be overemphasized, and access to networks. I also make bold to claim that Mr. Aje today is thriving on the strength of the network that he has accumulated over time. This is one thing that we need to quickly realize and then emphasize as we try to join hands together to solve Africa's youth unemployment challenge. So I will stop here so that we have time for comments, interactions, and I look forward to a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again, Dr. Egbetokun. It's good to have those really interesting insights from our two speakers. And now it's going to be over to you, the audience, for your comments and questions. But before we do that, I have a few. Can we have Mr. Aje back on screen, please? Because I will also be sort of standing here between both of you virtually to see what are the areas of connections. I think Dr. Egbetokun was throwing a few challenges, so comment there as well. But there's just one thing first let me just mention our third speaker is not in some of the posters. We updated some of these later on. Will not be joining us today because the Nigerian National Assembly has had to embark on some countrywide consultations for constitutional amendment, and so he has sent his apologies. But we hope to bring him on in a subsequent program. But we do have a few former government officials here. I can see at least two of them. So I'll be probably asking them to make one or two comments later on in their position, what they think, with regard to these. I can see Honorable Larry Laoshe, who is a former minority leader of the Nigerian House of Representatives, as well as Mr. Yomila Inka, who is former advisor to a governor in one of the states in Nigeria. But before we do that, I also have here with me my colleague from DMU as well, Dr. Momodu Sala, who has run a number of youth entrepreneurship projects in the Gambia. So the question I want to ask you, Dr. Egbetokun, is that there's something, so for me, I think one of the key points you made here is that Africa itself, and I know many of your particular, empirical studies are from Nigeria, but we are talking about the continent, right, as a whole. The continent is not lacking in entrepreneurial activities. In fact, some of the data actually reveal that the higher levels of entrepreneurial activities were in some African countries. But I suppose the difference is that many of these activities are necessity driven, like you said, because people don't have anything to do and they need to do something, right? And that's a problem in terms of growth. And I think you spoke about that at length. And then you zero down on innovative entrepreneurship. And you mentioned technology entrepreneurship in particular. That is the most promising type of entrepreneurship. But I mean, my question, maybe a bit of comment, is that when we talk about technology entrepreneurship, more often than not, we are referring to the high-tech end, right? We are referring more often than not to the high-tech end, about those who are maybe programmers or those who are, into big data or, apps development and all of that, fintech, and a whole range, broad spectrum of high tech. Are we missing an opportunity there? In that, technology does not have to be, something that exists in those two extremes, that either, you are at the high end or you are not in at all. That it seems there's a lot of opportunity down there, down the middle, that are not being annexed, because it seems we're looking at opportunity for technology entrepreneurship from a Western perspective, and you could argue that, of course, there's an opportunity for high-tech entrepreneurship to connect, to global opportunities, but there's a lot of unexplored middle there. And could this be an area where Mr. Aje actually is, stepping in to locate opportunities? Because the Ishaya business card does not come across necessarily as very high tech end, but it's certainly not low tech. And what it has done is that it's now actually taking ideas that a lot of necessity entrepreneurs in the informal sectors have been, struggling with for maybe decades, and then inject some innovation and technology into it, and then move them from that necessity, subsistence spectrum right into the forefront of opportunity, without necessarily making it big high tech that only few can access, that you need a great deal of skilling and competence and capability to access. So I just wanted to comment on that, and also invite Mr. Aje to speak to that in terms of, do we need to rethink the role of technology in terms of, accessibility, expanding accessibility and opportunity down the middle of the technology spectrum. So first, your comment on that, and then Mr. Aje on that, and then, maybe we then go to the audience perhaps.
No, you're absolutely right that it's not only about high tech. As a matter of fact, I'm a firm believer in the fact that the notion of, particularly, the rhetoric these days is about ICT-enabled entrepreneurship. So people don't take you seriously if you talk about high-growth entrepreneurship and you're not talking about, people functioning in the ICT space, the Andelas of this world, the Flutter waves and all that. I'm a firm believer in the fact that that's a potentially dangerous rhetoric. It's dangerous in the sense that it's just going to broaden the missing middle. Okay, I do agree that there is in fact a missing middle. There is a huge gap between the low end of the spectrum of entrepreneurship, the people who carry, pans on their head to hawk groundnuts and so on and so forth. If you ask these people, they will tell you that they are entrepreneurs. And by certain conventional definitions of entrepreneurship, they might qualify, even though they are just traders by the roadside and all that. So I remember by the textbook definition of entrepreneurship that we studied in economics in secondary school, all of them will be classified as entrepreneurs. And then you have these other guys on the high end of the spectrum that I mentioned. There's a huge middle that we must not miss. So if we focus excessively on those on the upper end of the spectrum, we basically just shift the frontiers of the missing middle, and we miss a lot of opportunities in there. Now, having said that, I do think that the role that technology plays in entrepreneurship in general is the role of an enabler. It drives growth, if you like. It creates an opportunity to scale. And I think that is precisely what Mr. Aje is doing. Okay. Now, if somebody goes to rent a shop, buy a clipper, at the point where that person opens a barber shop and uses a clipper, is already using a certain kind of technology. He gets a generator to solve his electricity problems, so not relying on NEPA. Okay, so he's using technology, but he can only do one business, at best maybe 2 or 3. He gets a deep freezer, puts it in his shop, which is going to take up a lot of space, where he could have, a space which he could have used, you know, to entertain his customers and then drive up his sales by so doing, drive up his volume of sales by so doing. But the innovation that has been created here that we're discussing, that Isheya, will enable that man to use far less space and diversify his business. So you see, that one business can scale simply by adopting a technology which many might not classify as high-tech there. So I think in reconsidering the role of technology, rethinking the role of technology, we need to think about it not necessarily about the content of the technology, but about its ability to drive scale at whatever point in the entrepreneurship spectrum. So if there is a gentleman who carries his bread on his head to hawk, or orange, as in the specific case of Isheya now, a young woman who carries oranges on her head to hawk, 1 unit of Isheya is going to take the pan off the head of this person and allow them to sell more units of oranges than they would have sold carrying the pan on their head and walking the streets of Lagos or in whatever town they are based. So rethinking the role of technology would mean that we need to consider it as an enabler, a facilitator, something that supports the scaling of businesses. So when I speak about innovative entrepreneurship, that's a kind of conceptualization that I have in mind, not necessarily thinking about the high end of the spectrum in terms of content.
Thank you so very much for that. That is really, really insightful and interesting. Mr. Aje, can you come in there? What's your comment? So what is the logic you're applying? You're consciously applying in terms of integrating technology and at the same time making it accessible. You know, we talk about the middle.
Yeah, I totally agree with Dr. Egbetokun, because technology is an enabler, very powerful enabler. And I'm going to give you a very simple reason. Isheya multi-business card, you know, earlier on, before I came up with Isheya, we had a cat called Orango. It was basically, it means orange on the go. And the first version of that cat, it was just a simple cat like that, but it could only do orange juice. Then later we upgraded it to do pineapple and watermelon. But you see, I thought about it, and I was not even impressed with it, because I said, look, there must be more to this, because, hey, if somebody is running this business, if there's a problem with oranges or pineapple, or, I mean, these are agricultural products that can be wiped up by pests, and then maybe for that harvest season, the fruits are scarce. That means whoever is running that business will be out of business. For the length of time, the fruits are not available. So even though, you know, we had good prospects with the Federal Ministry of Agri adopting that particular product, they bought hundreds from us, I was not happy, and I said, look, no, we need to do something more. And I just woke up one day, I said, wait a minute, do you know if you add just one solar panel, you could do more? Even though, I mean, it was very stressful, because then I was thinking, oh my God, I have to build the circuit myself. I knew about what I had to do, but I said, look, we have to do this. And, you know, we did it, and I was shocked myself. In fact, let me say this. Do you know, when Isheya was even designed, the barbing salon was not there. I was trying something else. We were trying to have an umbrella system, an umbrella shade system that will not cover the solar panel. So we thought about an extension on the side. If you look at the video, they were extending the umbrella. After I saw that, I said, wait a minute. If we can extend the umbrella, we can put a mirror here. People can do barbing. They can even do makeup. And that was how we added that. Already we had the solar panel. So there was inverter at the beginning. We just put a small inverter there. We have, and that was it. So you can see how technology helps now. But one other thing I have to say is this. Let me shock you with something. If you see on my bio, I call myself a horticulturist with expertise in marketing. Marketing is a form of asexual reproduction when it comes to propagating plants. That means you're not using seeds. It's also called air layering. You can check it up online. So with air layering, you can turn branches of trees into within 2 weeks, within 3 weeks, depending on the trees. So I started doing this in my house, and I remember from one single tree, I was able to do, there was this particular species of guava that gives 1 kilogram fruits. From this single tree, I applied that technique, and within 4 to 5 months, I had 300 seeds. Because they were fruiting quite early, at 3 months, I sold them at a premium. I sold them average for 7,500 naira. So, I mean, people come to my house, they want to buy. I say, wait, do you want to wait for 2 years or wait for, for 6 months to have your fruits? When I did, I discovered that, wait a minute, air layering, it doesn't require any technology. This technology had been existing for the past 2,000 years. You just need sawdust and a nylon and a rope. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to package like a product that will, that will be able to use this technique to create jobs, because you don't even, in some plants, you don't even need to have a big land. You can put them in the pots, and then you turn the branches into seedlings, and you can start selling this. So I'm working on a project. I think we should be done in another few months, just to make sure that, we can take this technique. So this is an example where this one, there's zero technology there. So when I go around town and I see the people selling flowers, struggling, and I look at them and I tell them, I said, do you know this flower you planted it, you spent 7 months tending it, and it's just about 2 feet. I can get you the same seedlings, a whole lot of them, within 3 months. And they open their mouth and say, So I start to think, I said, look, hey, there's a way we can use this to help people create more jobs. In fact, I bought the domain Urban Gardening, basically to encourage youths to say, hey, by the time we start, you don't even need, because when you hear farming, everybody thinks, you have to be dirty, you have to go to the bush and all that. But then you can stay in the city and do this. That is innovation. Let me shock you. There's a plant called pomegranates. I don't know whether you know it. Pomegranates, the fruits are very expensive in Nigeria. For one fruit, it's about 3,500. So I use this technique of air layering on pomegranates, and we're getting seedlings within 3 weeks. So I did a little bit of research, and I discovered that I could use some homemade, solutions as rooting agents. Now we are getting seedlings within 7 days, which is incredible. So right now, I have about 500 seedlings within 3 months, just from 5, which I'm going to sell 10,000 naira each. So wait a minute. Look, that's why I said it's good the foreigners are waiting outside. There's a lot we can do, both with technology and without technology. As a matter of fact, with this air layering, you really don't need, what do you need? The sawdust they give you for free, the nylons you get from the dumps, because everybody throwing away their nylons. And you need water, which is free as well. So this is an example at the low end. Technology plays no part at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there, but I think I will just stop you there for a moment, because there are people who want to speak to this, who want to ask you questions, and I don't want to deny them the opportunity. But it's interesting because the latter part of your comment actually has spoken to the other thing I wanted to say, which is that, if we say the story of Isaiah or many of the things that you are doing, or that maybe other entrepreneurs are doing, is about technology, I think it should be a limited view. It is not just, it's not all about technology. There is also the non-technological aspect, of business innovation, of creativity. As far as I'm concerned, that is as important as technology itself, as an enabler. I've done some recent studies on this with some colleagues, where we are looking actually at the non-technological, aspect of, business innovation, that can sometimes be even more important in some cases, than access to technology itself. but I'm not going to go on any lengthy discussion of that. Hopefully, one of these papers should be published in the next couple of weeks, and we can share widely with people. But yeah, so I think technology is not all about, it's not the full story. It's important, but it's not the full story. There are things about, just the creative energy, the creativity, the business model innovation as well that comes into play in this. But yes, so now it's over to the